Now, youth unemployment in the United Kingdom has reached its highest level in 11 years during Sir Keir Starmer's time in office. Now, the rise comes amid concerns that Labour's tax hikes have affected the wider labour markets, whilst the overall jobless rate also rose from 4.9% to 5% in the 3 months to March. Let's now speak with the independent statistician and the political commentator, Jamie Jenkins. Jamie, welcome to the show. It's Unemployment Figures Day. I always message you before 7 a.m. because I know you're always bang on the money. This is a bleak set of figures for the Chancellor, Rachel Reeves, and indeed for Sir Keir Starmer and the entire Labour government.
Yeah, good afternoon, Martin. So you're right to call out there are some bleak figures, and we've got different sets of numbers. So let's kind of break down what we've actually got. So you get a survey of employees and of basically to understand what's going on with the unemployment figures, and that's highlighting that youth unemployment that you've highlighted. And as well as that, we get a more kind of robust series of data, which comes from the HMRC, where they look at the pay-as-you-earn tax system, and we can kind of identify how many jobs are people paying tax on and how are they changing. And staggeringly, Martin, we've seen 200,000 decline now in the last year, 100,000 in April alone, if you take the monthly figure. Now, that is subject to revision. They estimate that with some early data, but nevertheless, that's quite a damning figure. Vacancies are down as well. And when you look across the economy, it's no surprise that it's basically hospitality and retail, where some of these younger people will be looking for those entry-level jobs. They're the parts of the economy that are being hit hardest.
And also, Jamie, pay is down. The average pay growth dropped to 3.4%. That's the lowest level since the height of the pandemic in October 2020. And another very alarming figure is about joblessness, worklessness. The crisis, particularly amongst the under 25s, is, quote, approaching recession scale. Not only is this bad for the entire country, but particularly, Jamie Jenkins, a very, very hard time for young people, the precise people that the Labour Party offered the olive branch of hope to at the last general election.
Yeah, and we've seen obviously the Labour Party come in with some of these policies to try and create new apprenticeship roles, but you can't deny, and if you look at some of the commentators who are working within industry today, Martin, they highlighting again Labour's jobs tax that is coming. We've also had the national minimum wage increases that are coming as well. On those wage figures, you do get, again, kind of a two-tier part of the UK. We've got 3.4% wages are going up overall, but it's 3% in the private sector and 4.8% in the public sector. So you've got that disparity there. And what those figures mean is obviously with wage growth going down, that might be where the Bank of England might decide to start bringing interest rates down, because obviously there's fewer money going into people's pockets. But with the Iran war, they're talking about inflation and putting interest rates potentially up to stop the inflating of inflation. I'd argue that's not the right thing when this isn't demand-led inflation that's causing it, Martin. And I think on the face of it, ultimately, I think what's going to happen with the future of the Prime Minister is going to be critical in all of this, because obviously Rachel Reeves is not going to backtrack on the policies that have led to these job losses. So maybe a change in the Prime Minister at some point in the future, if that happens, may lead to a change in the Chancellor overall as well. And some people are blaming the Iran war for these figures, Martin. But if you look at the US, they've actually been seeing increases in jobs in recent months in the US. So you've got to take kind of a pinch of salt when people are blaming the Iran war on these figures in hospitality and retail.
But, you know, Jamie, we have this conversation so many times. If it's not the Iran war, it's the Ukraine war, it's COVID, it's Brexit, it's Liz Truss, it's a passing meteorite. I mean, you name it, there's always an excuse. How about just admitting what anybody knows in business? If you put national insurance up, if you put minimum wages up, it means you hire less people. If business gets this, why doesn't the Chancellor?
Yeah, you're spot on there. And when you look at the fall in vacancies as well, it's those smaller firms that have been impacted the most. So they're basically, you know, those firms with just 1 to 8 employees, because obviously when you put taxes up, they can't absorb those costs as much when you're in a smaller firm. So yeah, putting the cost onto the employer. And then we've got the next wave of problems going to obviously hit the younger people as well, is with AI probably looking at some of those entry-level roles, replacing those. So that's something that's going to be hitting them going forward. So I think the government needs to really look at the whole university sector and the number of people going to university, because, you know, you've got a lot of people who've sold this hope of going to university, getting a job after it. They're now coming out with huge amounts of debt. And if you look at places like Japan and Germany, youth unemployment's a lot lower there because they have a system where the employment system is joined up to the education system. So I think a key thing for this government now to focus on for the next few years is looking at those graduates. How many do we need? What's the link to the jobs that we need? Because we can't have young people being raddled with debt when there's no job at the end of it for them.
Yeah, too many Mickey Mouse degrees, too much debt. And do you know what? If I was a young person now, I'd probably clear off out the country. I sincerely believe I would. Jamie Jenkins, thank you for cheering us all up. Always a pleasure.